Great. I think we are all ready to go and start. Hopefully you can all hear me just fine. All right, let's start. Hi, everyone. My name is Jose Rodriguez, and I am the Community Education Administrator for Mary Meeting Adult Education. I am also a member of the Marketing Committee for the MAYA Board, and I'm also an adjunct professor at USM for Marketing in Adult Education and Higher Education. Um, so that's just a little introduction for me. And I also just wanted to quickly apologize for not being there today. It's We set it up before I realized that the lunch and learn today is actually my grandmother's 80th birthday. So I will not even be in the state. I'll be in New Jersey, or I am there right now, actually, probably setting up all kinds of things for my grandmother's big party. But yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me about anything that you see in this presentation today. Thank you. Okay, let's go. Now I'm going to share my screen with you all and start the presentation. Okay, I think we got it. Okay. So we are doing a little presentation today on the marketing plan, where it all starts for the lunch and learn. Put it on slideshow. Okay. So yeah, this was actually an idea that I had brought up to the marketing committee as we were creating different resources and also sharing it with you all. But I realized that now, obviously, not everyone comes from a marketing background and may not think about this as they're getting resources from Maya or from other sources. But I really wanted to stress how important the marketing plan is, not just for an organization, but it's important for everyone. I think people that are even looking for jobs nowadays have a marketing plan on how to market themselves to potential employers as well too. I mean, and all the plan is it's a plan. It's kind of self-explanatory, and it shows you it's sort of uh, builds for your organization a roadmap to how you're going to fulfill the goals that you have for yourself, and specifically the marketing goals because we plan right now. Um, but it's just, I mean, it relates to anything that we do, any topic that you do, in anything. I mean, the marketing plan is usually part of a business plan, but you would build any kind of plan in order to organize yourself to be able to achieve certain actionable steps. And so, same with marketing as with anything else, you need a plan in order to do that. And we'll talk a little bit about why and how it'll be helpful for you later on. Okay, so the first slide here. The so like I was saying, I'll take this off here, my face down here. The marketing plan is basically just a plan of action. In general terms, it's a roadmap that outlines the strategies and the tactics an organization will use to achieve specific marketing goals within a defined time frame. It details the target audience, the messaging, the different channels you use for marketing, how you'll budget, and how successful you'll be through different processes to measure the actual tactics that you use to achieve the marketing goals that you have. So we'll get in specifically about what strategies and tactics are. Um, so context matters when you're building your plan for educational institutions and nonprofits in particular. A marketing plan adapts core principles of any kind of marketing plan, but it's always with a focus on unique goals. And these goals might include increasing awareness about the cause or program, attracting donors or volunteers, promoting upcoming events. Nonprofit marketing plans often place a strong emphasis on storytelling and emotional connection to resonate with your audience. I think we're all aware of this, and we all understand how adult education uses storytelling and being able to, especially through testimonials and through stories of students, success stories, and even non-success stories of how students go through our programs. But it's not just sort of coincidental stories or little anecdotes. That's basically the basis of your marketing. It's the basis of our marketing in general as an institution, as adult education institution in Maine. It is the basis of everything that we do as far as marketing is concerned. So they're a little bit more than anecdotes. They're anecdotes that can be used and should be used in order to further the marketing goals of your organization. Um, so the big picture. Marketing plan is part of an organization's business plan. It's usually a smart part of it inside, but it's the foundation for identifying your market, attracting prospects, and converting them into clients, converting your clients into customers and retaining them as customers. So usually marketing plans operate on two levels. First, you have the strategic level, and then you have the tactical level. Plain and simple, strategy is identifying your marketing play, which is basically just identifying your goals. So the strategic level, which is the first part of your marketing plan, is what are your marketing goals? It's plain and simple. And then the tactical part of it comes after the strategic part of it. It's how are you going to execute your goals? What kind of actionable processes are you going to put in place in order to make your goals a reality? Um, the marketing plan doesn't need to be long, doesn't need to be expensive. It should be researched and thoughtfully considered and evaluated to help your organization set goals, implement strategies, and measure results. But it doesn't have to be anything that's extremely complicated or in depth. There are marketing plans that are like that, and I'll show you as we go through Mary meetings later on. It can get very in depth, but it doesn't have to, especially if you're starting out or if it's a very simple process. You have certain goals, you want to achieve them. How are you going to do that? This is it. It could be laid out. I've seen marketing plans as long as 20 pages, but also as short as 1 page as well too. And some one-page marketing plans are very effective depending on how well it's researched and how well it's communicated. Um, and then this last part here is, I think, extremely important. Leaving marketing decisions to chance or intuition can be far more costly than taking the time to develop a marketing plan. This is true for a lot of decisions we make. We don't leave academic decisions to chance or intuition as well too, because we know it'll cost us in the end. It's something that we have to think about. Marketing's the same way. You want people to come into your program. You want people to register. You want people to know about your services. You need a plan of action. You can't just leave it to chance and just say, oh, well, somehow, some way, the community out there is going to know what we do because we are who we are. And to a certain extent, that may be true. To a certain extent, though, there are always people coming in and out of communities, and not everyone knows about adult ed, and not everyone knows what adult ed is or how it works. And that's where marketing comes in. So again, don't leave it to chance. Um, Creating a marketing plan will help you not leave it to chance. Simple as that. Okay, next one. So to break it all down, basically and essentially, the marketing plan is two parts. It's the first part is your goals, right? The strategy, the strategic level of it. It's very simple. What are your goals? Is your goal to increase enrollment in a particular program, increase enrollment perhaps generally throughout your entire organization? Is it to bring more younger people in? Is it to bring older people in? To bring it could be anything really, but that is the first part of your marketing plan. It's as simple as that. The second part is the action plan. How are you going to achieve those goals? Like very, very detailed. Okay, we want to bring more young people into our program. Well, how are you going to do that? Are you going to go onto TikTok where you know that they're going to be? Are you going to have events that are tailored towards younger audiences to be able to bring them in and share your services with them? You need a plan in order to achieve your goals. So that's all the marketing plan is really. I mean, we could end the lunch and learn right now with those two items, and you'll have a lot in your arsenal to start with. Your goals and your action plan and how to achieve those goals. So these are some questions you want to think about as you're thinking about the marketing plan. What goals are you thinking about right now? What goals should you prioritize between the near term and long term? That's something that you'll discover creating a marketing plan. You'll figure out, okay, there are goals. There's a lot of goals, but we want to prioritize which ones we want to see achieved within a year, which ones we want to see achieved within a few years, depending on the complexity of the goal itself. Another question is, do these goals align with your organization's principles and values? That's very important as well, too. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a later slide. But it's almost same way that your marketing plan is the roadmap to how you're going to achieve your marketing goals. Aligning it with your organization's principles and values is extremely important because it, at least on the level of branding, if your organization's principles and goals are not aligned with your goals, with your marketing goals, there's a mismatch there. And that mismatch is going to be a mismatch in branding that will be obvious to customers and the people out in the public. So you don't want to do that. Um, Another question would be, what are some immediate steps you can take to start achieving some of these goals? So these are just questions to kind of think about and roll around in your head as you're thinking about this two-part process in the marketing plan: goals and the action plan. So that's basically what it is at the end of the day. Now, here are some tips and tricks on how to achieve a full marketing plan that includes those two steps. Um, there's a lot of information here, but I broke down each of these five practices into a slide, so we'll go into each one a little bit more specifically. But these are the five, just at a glance. These are five of the top best practices for developing a marketing plan, drawing from industry experts. Number one, start with SMART goals. Now, SMART is an acronym. It's an acronym for set, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals, to ensure your plan has clear direction and success that can be tracked. It's really important. We'll go through each step of these goals, but this is basically something that was devised back in, I believe it was in the 80s by a group of marketers, and it's still relevant to this day. A lot of education in marketing is based on these SMART goals as well too, and there's a reason for it that we'll go into in a minute. Now, the second best practice is to know your audience. You want to research and define your ideal donor, your volunteer or supporter. You want to tailor your message and channels to resonate with their interests and needs. Audience research, market audience, target market research is it's sort of its own subgenre within marketing. It's huge and it can get very complicated as well too. But it doesn't have to be though, but it is very important to know your audience, because what else are you marketing your products to if you don't know who your audience is that you're marketing to your services to, you know? And then being able to distinguish between your audience is also very important. You know, you don't want to market college transitions to, let's say, I don't know, kids that are maybe 16, 17 years old, when really what you want to market to that age group is high SED and GED and high school diploma completion. I mean, you know, college transitions could be something there, but that seems to be something that maybe older adults might need, especially if they're coming back from the workforce or whatnot. But it just depends on your own demographic, your regional interests as well too. But it's something to keep in mind and be very intentional about. Next best practice is crafting a compelling story. Nonprofits and educational institutions thrive on emotional connection. You need to develop a clear and concise narrative that captures the heart of your mission and its impact. So again, here, you wouldn't be able to craft a compelling story if you don't understand your mission statement as an organization. So, and the values and principles of your organization. Without really truly understanding that, you don't have much as far as marketing. You need to understand that first, because that drives everything else. Um, okay, next best practice is embrace multiple channels. It's pretty self-explanatory. Utilize a mix of marketing channels, both traditional and digital, to reach your audience where they are. And that's really the important part of this. You want to reach people where they are, where they're gathering, virtually and physically, and also emotionally as well too. That's really important. It's a huge part of marketing. If you don't reach your audience where they are, don't expect them to come to you. That's kind of leaving your marketing decisions up to chance, and that's never a productive way of going about it. And then the last best practice is track and adapt. You want to regularly monitor your marketing performance and be ready to adjust strategies based on what's working and what's not. We'll talk more about this as well too, but 90% of marketers out there will tell you that marketing is all about data. Without data and without measurable strategies to look at if your marketing is effective, there is no marketing. A lot of marketers would tell you out there the same thing. There is no marketing without data. You can't even talk about your audience. You can't talk about your goals. You can't talk about the story. There's none of that exists without data, without being able to track your data and see if what you're doing with your marketing goals and your action plan is actually successful, or if it needs to be adapted and tweaked a certain way in order to adjust to a particular message or topic or audience. Now let's break this down into slides. First one are the SMART goals. So you want to set specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant time-bound goals. First one, you want to be specific. You want to be as specific as possible. And it seems self-explanatory, but sometimes you're working on something and you kind of generalize your ideas and your goals. You want to be very specific. I'll show you some examples later on about specificity and how it works and how it can be successful. We use specific goals as well too here in Mayor Meeting. Sometimes it could be as specific as a number. We want to increase our enrollment by 1,000 people by 2 years from now, for example. That's a very specific goal, and that's really the best way to do it as far as marketing is concerned. Second one, measurable. Make sure you have ways to measure your success of your marketing, even if you have to create access points yourself. This means that, let's say that you want to send a poll out or some sort of survey out to figure out what's the best way to deliver some sort of content, right? You get the feedback, and then usually a lot of those, like say SurveyMonkey, usually a lot of those platforms will have analytics for you. So analytics are just ways at looking at your data in different ways, either through a bar graph or through numbers. So analytics will be kind of built into those platforms. But if they are not, or if it's something as simple as you're sending out a postcard, for example, and you want to know if that postcard was successful, what you need to do is you need to create an access point for yourself to be able to measure that success. Sending out a postcard, there isn't an inherent built-in analytical page for you to see that. So you kind of have to build it. Maybe that's when you send out their survey. You send out the postcard and then you send out a survey to your community members, asking them if they received the postcard. Did the postcard sway them in any way? Would they prefer a different type of media or mail? So it's about creating access points if there aren't obvious ways to measure your data, but measuring your data is extremely important. Number three here, I forgot to put in there. I think I had been thinking about it and then I erased it, but it's achievable. You want to set achievable goals. Self-explanatory. If your goals are not specific, referring back to number one, and they're too generalized, you may not be able to achieve it. You may not even be able to measure it. It's too general. But if it's something like I want to grow enrollment, I mean, sure, you can measure that and you can possibly achieve that. But you want to get specific because you want to be able to achieve your goals and measure them. And as we get to the next ones, also make them relevant to time bound. But it's all about making, and I think this is the most important for me, you want to make your goals achievable. Without making your goals achievable, then it's sort of pie in the sky type of thing. You don't know. You'll create a marketing plan that may work, may not work. You have no idea. So that's just never a good platform to work from. Fourth one, you want to make your goals relevant as well too, and that's really important because it ties into how well you know your audience and how good of a job you did in researching your audience. If you know your audience, you can make your goals as relevant as possible to them. My goal is to increase enrollment in the HiSET labs for these particular days. So that's a very specific goal, and you'll have a way to measure it as well too, because you've created an access point, and you want it to be achievable because it is specific, but it's relevant because it's for a very specific group of people, right? HiSET students. Like that makes it very, very relevant. So if you're marketing your HiSET programs to a very specific age group, then you've already got your relevancy all set. And then the last one is time bound. You want to make sure that and it relates to how achievable your goals are as well too. But depending on the complexity of your goals and then how they're achievable and your marketing plan, the plans can vary from 1 to 5 years is usually what I've seen. It can be pretty much anything too, but you want to have specific parameters as far as time from when you start your plan of action to when you end your plan of action, because that gives you the opportunity then to measure what you've done, but then also relate it to your own organization and to the organization, to the goals of the organization and the values and the mission and principles and all that. It's sort of taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture after you've completed a particular marketing project. And this is the time to do it. It would be based on your time that you give yourself for these goals to be achieved. And it doesn't have to be set in stone either, but it's a really good way to keep track of what you're doing. And there's some information down there on the SMART goals themselves. Okay, the audience. Now let's talk about audience for a little bit. We all know, I think, deep down inside, the audience is extremely important. It sort of dictates everything that we do, in adult ed, based on the programs we have, whether it's enrichment or academic, whether it's high set or fitness for seniors. Audience is extremely important. We're not going to market a class for seniors to younger people. You're not going to you're not going to create an ad on TikTok for a seniors only, fitness class, for example. It doesn't make any sense. You're not matching your audience with your message or making it relevant for your message. Going back to the SMART tips in general. So you want to research and define your ideal donors, your volunteers, your supporters, and your customers as well too, and tailor your message and channels to resonate with their interests. And in adult ed, we have a lot of different audiences too, so this can get a little hairy sometimes, but it's very important. And because as you'll see in the end, I feel like I know that your marketing will go a lot further if you tailor your marketing and make it relevant for your audience. So what are their biggest challenges and aspirations? I think this is a really important part right here. Understanding your audience's pain points and goals is extremely important. It's the idea that you want to get to know your audience, not just from their aspirations and desires, but also from their pain points, which is it's those things about a person that either frustrate them or bug them or cause anxiety for them in a certain way, sort of in a kind of in a weird to everything turned upside down type of way. It's similar to a person's aspirations in that there is sort of the negative version of the aspiration, right? That's how we see it in marketing. A person's pain points can include a certain anxiety about something, but then our job as marketers is to turn that pain point um, into an access point for the audience. So your audience, this particular audience is frustrated or they're anxious about, let's say, public speaking, for example, okay? And you're going to offer a workshop or enrichment workshop about public speaking or even academic workshop about public speaking. You know that is a potential pain point for a lot of people. You turn that pain point then into a marketing win for you. You have this class, and then you market the class to reach people and specifically talking about that pain point in particular, And we do this a lot in adult ed anyway without even realizing it. Do you have your diploma? Do you want to make more money? This is all marketing tricks that are based on audiences' pain points. 100%. Um, we're doing a lot of it already. You may just not know it, but knowing what you're doing and understanding it helps you become a better marketer in general. I'm better at marketing your services. So understanding their pain points and goals, what problems do they face? What are they trying to achieve? By pinpointing these, you can tailor your message directly towards their needs and desires. Where do they get their information? How do they consume content? It's also huge as well too. I know that's been a big topic of discussion for a lot of adult ed professionals as well too. Where do we go? Do we go on TikTok? Do we go on Instagram? Do we do this? Do we do that? Might not feel natural for us to do that, but I mean, maybe the answer is a big maybe, and you should definitely certainly research into those possibilities because it's just all about getting to know your audience. And the more you know, the better you're off. And then what language resonates with as well too, not just um, language that's spoken, but it could also be about tones and styles. It could be about informal and formal, technical jargon, or using plain language. Sometimes you want to tailor your message without using technical jargon for something very specific because it might scare away your potential customers. Sometimes you do want to use that because it might attract people. For example, it could go either way too. I'm thinking about a CNA ad that recently created. And it's sort of like, do you want to give a lot of information and technical jargon because it feels and it looks and it seems technical and it's something that is valid and it's the word I'm looking for. Something that's legitimate, right? But then at the same time, it could also be something that puts off your audience because if your audience is not, I mean, they'll get into the technical jargon, sure, but do they really need that right away? Is it something that could possibly scare them? So it's all about being clear, engaging, but also knowing your audience so that you can target your message with very specific type of language that could be relevant to them. That was a long one, but very important. Audience is super important. We'll do this one a lot quicker. The story. So crafting a compelling story. Nonprofits and educational institutions thrive on the emotional connection. You all know that. Develop a clear and concise narrative that captures the heart of your mission and its impacts. Easier said than done. Even I'll admit that as well too. I'm a fine artist as well too in my private life, and I have a master's degree in fine art. So, and all we do is storytelling, and fine art. But even for me, sometimes it becomes difficult to think about what kind of story I'm telling, what kind of message I'm trying to get out there, and making it clear and concise because it could be clear and concise to you, but it may not be clear and concise to your audience, which is then there's a mismatch and that's marketing that doesn't work. So it's crafting the story that's compelling, but also referring back to the audience. If you know your audience, you're going to know how to craft your story as well too. Um, but because sometimes crafting your story is easier said than done, we have some principles that I put on here, and I'm also going to include a couple of articles talking about how just normal people, lay people, can sit down and really can really create a compelling story for their organization. Really good stuff in there, but I'll talk about that at the end of the presentation. But here's some do's and don'ts to remember when you're crafting your story. Consider your audience always. Choose a framework and details that will best resonate with your listeners. You want to identify the moral or message that you want to impart, which is usually related, especially in Delta Ed, it's related back to your mission statement and your core principles and values. Then you want to find inspiration in life experiences. I think this is something that's done constantly in Delta Ed. We don't even know that we're doing that, but we're crafting compelling stories by just telling the stories of our students. Talking about testimonials. I've sent out testimonials and newsletters as well too, and we always get the most response from testimonials and from these life stories that we share. It really resonates with people when you share those things, and it becomes part of your compelling story as an organization as well too. Things you don't want to do, you don't want to assume that you don't have storytelling chops. We all have it in us to tell memorable stories. We just need certain guidelines to help us with that, and I'll include that information later on. Um, you don't want to give yourself or your organization the starring role. The starring role should always be your customer, right? Again, going back to audience, knowing your audience, putting them front and center, understanding their pain points, understanding their desires and goals, but putting that front and center. Not saying, well, Merry Meeting is going to do this for you. No, well, Merry Meeting offers these services, but this is really the story. The story is about you. The story is about you coming here and finishing your diploma or getting a certificate in a workforce development training program and getting a better job. Like that's the story. It's about them. It should always be focused on the audience. And then you also don't want to overwhelm your story with unnecessary detail as well too. But yeah, next slide. Pretty self-explanatory as well too. Multiple channels. You want to utilize a mix of marketing channels, both print and digital, to reach your audience where they are. Here at Merry Meeting, we do a traditional print catalog. We also have a website, and we also have the traditional print catalog on an online version on our website. I know a lot of Delta Eds do that as well too. We have a presence on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not sure about X, but I know we have a presence on YouTube as well too, because I've been very specific about trying to get as much media content on there for YouTube because people like watching videos. That's just who we are as humans. And so the more video you can have, the better. And sometimes it's as simple as just, grabbing your cell phone and just recording something that's happening or recording a story that one of your students have and just posting it directly from your cell phone to your YouTube account. Very, very easy to do once you do it the first time. But it's really important that you do more, utilize as many channels as possible. It's sort of like you can have the best marketing plan on the planet, but without embracing multiple channels, it's only going to be in one lane or exist in one lane. And that is never works because people don't consume media in one lane. They consume media in a variety of different lanes and channels. Even before the age of internet, we were doing it in multiple ways as well too. Whether it's storytelling and word of mouth, or whether it's a traditional newspaper, or whether it's a blimp that you saw with a message. Like there's just multiple channels, and you want to embrace them as much as possible. And then finally, the last tip and trick that I wanted to kind of explore a little bit more: measuring your data, track and adapt, regularly monitor your marketing performance, and be ready to adjust your marketing strategies. This, I know this sounds intimidating, and when you're looking at bars and graphs as well too, that can be intimidating as well too. I don't like numbers in general, even though I work with numbers a lot, but it's important to not only be comfortable with these types of measurements, but also understand that no one's asking you to be a statistician or some sort of analytical scientist at all too. It can be very easy, it can be as simple as this is this is how many enrollments we had last year this month, and this is how many enrollments we have this year this month. That there you're measuring marketing, you're measuring your data with a very simple bar graph or pie chart or even just numbers, right? It could be as simple as that. So then here's some ways to measure your marketing that already come built in. For example, a registration or enrollment system. Like we use CoreStorm in Adult Ed in Maine. CoreStorm has its own registration analytics built right in. So I literally just have to click on the analytic parts of it, and then they show me, it's called the dashboard, and they show me everything. This is how many registrations you got this month. This is how many registrations you got this month last year as well too. And it's very automatic. You can just do the measuring right there and then. Social media also has its own analytics built in too. Facebook has analytics, so does Instagram, X, I'm not sure, and YouTube has analytics as well too. Let you know how many people viewed this video, how many people clicked on this video and watched it through all the way through or not. Polls and surveys also have analytics. If you've ever sent out a monkey survey poll, you'll know that there's an analytics page for it too that will tell you how many people responded to the poll and how they responded. Newsletters, a lot of platforms. I know MailChimp, and we use Constant Contact. They also have analytics built into their platforms. So it becomes very easy. I send out a newsletter, and when it comes back, I see the analytics, and I know how many people opened up the newsletter. I know how many people clicked on a specific part of the newsletter. It's all there. Google as well too has its own analytics page. As far as measuring specifically, if you don't have a Google campaign, that can get a little tricky. But I always suggest Google to even just throw in or just search your own organization and see what pops up, because that's part of measuring your marketing as well too. Seeing how high up you are on the search results, seeing where or what type of information is actually being put out there about your organization, right? That's really important to know. 99.9% of people use Google search. So understanding what your organization looks like through Google is a really important part of measuring your data and your marketing performance. So you can just use Google Analytics to do that. And then the last type of measurement for any kind of data analytics is very simple, and it's a tried and true method, and that's just personal feedback. Send out evaluations for classes you have, talk to people in person, listen to their stories or about their experiences in the class. All of that is your measuring data. It's all data. That is qualitative data, and quantitative data is the numbers. I don't want to get into that either, but it's the qualitative stuff is just as important as the quantitative stuff as well too. The numbers are just as important as the stories. The stories are just as important as the numbers. They tell you very similar stories and give you a very similar bigger picture, but in different ways as well too. The numbers give you much more hardcore, detailed who's actually coming in through your doors, and the stories can tell you a little bit about the experiences that your customers are having when they come, which is huge. But yeah, so getting started, at the end of the day, I think the first thing you need to do is just grab a notebook and a pen, or open up a Word doc on your computer and start brainstorming. You want to divide your document into two parts. The first part is your goals or the strategy, and the second part is your action plan. So again, what are your goals in marketing? And then for the second part, how are you going to achieve those goals? Very, very straightforward. And then I suggest that you, before you even write anything, that you identify your organization's mission statement and that you write it at the top of your document, because that is going to be relevant to every single part of your marketing plan. You want to make sure your marketing plan, that your goals, that even the research into your audience, everything will relate and goes back to your mission statement. Your mission statement is your guiding light here, and let it guide your marketing plan in every way, shape, and form. And you'll see what I'm talking about as you go through it. And like I say in the last one here, let the organization's core principles and values guide the development of your plan, because your plan and everything you do within your organization always goes back to that. And yeah, that's it. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is I actually want to take a 5 minute break for everyone, because I think we've already been at this for about 30 minutes now. After the break, I will showcase for everyone the marketing plan that I developed for Mayor Meeting in 2022. This should give you an idea of how to organize your information into a coherent marketing plan for yourself. So I'm actually going to just stop sharing right now, and then I'm going to mute myself and then mute my camera and give us all 5 minutes for you to leave and come back. Okay. I give everyone here 1 more minute before I start again. All right, and that was the minute. So welcome back, everyone, uh, to our Lunch and Learn presentation of the marketing plan. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with everyone. I think I have some. Okay, yes. So our plan. Let's take a look at Merit's 3-year marketing plan. It's simple but comprehensive. For that, we're going to do exit and then yes, here. Okay, so here it is. It's a simple Word document and Merit Adult Education, the marketing plan. We decided to go with a 3-year plan. It just made this the most sense for us based on our goals. We sat down, we looked at the goals that we wanted, and we figured that those goals would be best achieved in a 3-year period to give us time to kind of enact other parts of our plan as well too. Because again, it's a time your time bound goals are based on how specific and how intentional you're being with your other goals as well too. So for us, we wanted an increase in enrollments in a very specific, segment of our programming. But we also knew that we had certain things that we didn't have in place that we needed in place in order to achieve those goals. So we needed to give ourselves time to put those things in place in order then for it to help us achieve those goals, which is why we gave ourselves 3 years. We knew that within the first year, we would be able to accomplish a lot of the things that we needed in place first in order to then move it forward. So, for example, social media is a really, really good example here. As soon as you get on social media, especially if you had an account, let's say on X, for example, um, you're going to need time to build your follow. It's just the way it is. You can get on the platform, you can start posting that like crazy, but no one's going to see it. No one's going to look at it. So we wanted to give ourselves at least a year in order to be able to move forward with some of our social media goals as well too. That's very important that you kind of plan out, which is again why the marketing plan is so important. You not only have your goal and you not only have the way that you're going to achieve that goal, but you're going to marry them together and try to figure out what is the priority, what isn't a priority, what can wait till later on, what needs to wait till later on too, like social media, something that needs time to actually to kind of develop and then let it see flourish in a sense too. But so the first part of any plan is just a breakdown. It's an outline of what's about to happen and what you're about to read. So it's just the contents, right? Number one, two, three, four. These differ from marketing plan to marketing plan, depending on the type of organization or the field that you're in. Um, I just sort of got this is sort of a mishmash between other marketing plans I've worked on before and some advice I got from other professionals as well too. And this worked for us. So it's number one is just an identification of what we are, our brand, what's our mission statement, what's our values, what's our overarching goals, what are our brand identifiers, as in how does the community see us. So that's kind of the first thing we wanted to do. And I think that was, I mean, this is something that's kind of ubiquitous among all marketing plans. It's identifying where you're at and where your brand is at. The second part would be branding strategy. This part can get really, really complicated and intense because it's more of an analysis of what your branding is and where your branding is. We didn't do that here because it wouldn't serve our purposes. We just it's much more condensed and we just kind of answered our own questions in a sense too. Eventually, we'll probably have to do a full analytical kind of detailing of where our brand is and how we want to strategize, how we want to sustain it, and where we want it to go as well too. But it's just a two-parter here that we asked, and you see how I treat it later on. The third part is a marketing strategy. This right here is where your goals are, right? When I said the first part and the second part, first part are your goals, the second part is how you're going to achieve those goals. It's right here. Number four and number three, number three is their goals, the who, the what, the where, and number four is the execution of your goals, right? The long term, short term. Do you want it to be demographic, geographic, design? It's all that, and then projections at the end as well too. Um, I do something a little bit different just because, again, it worked for us. But in this part here, as you'll see, um, not only do we go into our goals, but we also go into um, what it looks like now. So what does, say our goal is to increase enrichment, enrollment by this much, then we need to know who we are, what we are, and where, in order to be able to then figure out who we want, what we want, and where we want to go, type of thing. And then the fourth part, yeah, it's just a breakdown of the action plan. How are you going to achieve these goals? So here, I just kind of list it all out. This is our brand, our organization's mission statement, our organization's values, and the overarching goals. This is really important. It really helped me develop a marketing plan, and it continues to help me in a lot of marketing decisions I make too, to understand my mission statement, and to really let it guide me in everything we do. And so it's very our mission statement is to enhance the quality of life for the residents and the communities we serve. Very broad, but it helps me, and it's helped me, and it's been a lifesaver in a lot of situations. Because at the end of the day, I always go back to this mission statement. If I'm trying to make a decision between whether we want to do this or do that, I always go back to the mission statement. Is this decision going to enhance the quality of life for our residents? Yes or no? I mean, sometimes it's that easy. If the answer is no, then we're going to toss it out the window. It's just not going to work. We're not going to do that. But if the answer is yes, then maybe that's something to look into as well too. And it serves a lot of different purposes, but it's very important that you identify them. And then the values, lifelong learning community, our overarching goal as well too, is just to have higher academic and enrichment enrollment and sustainable programming. And then that was something that we actually talk a little bit about here. Um, but I wanted to just talk about this. The brand identifiers is very important as well too, because it gives you a big picture of where the community sees you from their perspective. Okay, that's the important part. Not from your perspective, from you sitting in your chair in your office in the adult ed center. You have your own perspective of what adult ed is, but you don't have the perspective of what your adult ed looks like outside. So it's important to kind of get into that frame set for yourself. Ask questions as well too. There may be people out there that can help you with this. Maybe ask someone in the community, hey, when I say to you, Mary meeting adult education, what do you think of? And so we did a lot of those things. We sent out polls and surveys. We went through feedback. We talked to people in person. So we did a lot of different we tried a lot of different ways to understand our programming and where we're at and how it's seen by the community. And this is what we came up with, adult education services. That's what people think of when they hear Mary adult education. Big enrichment program, right? Here at Mary Meeting, we're very lucky to have a community that is very much involved in specifically in the arts and crafts and outdoor fitness activities. So we have a very large enrichment footprint in the community, and the community knows that, and that's what they see. So that's how we understand the community sees us. They also know us as offering workforce development, particularly CNA programs. They know us as a provider of adult education classes. Not every adult ed does that or is able to do that, but we are fortunate enough to be able to do that, and it's a big part of our program. That's how people see us. And it's also, just as a little caveat here, it's a great way knowing how people see you and identify and understanding your brand identifiers. This one in particular, being seen by a community as a provider for adult education classes, was also, for me in particular, doing in this job and in this role, it was sort of like a little peekaboo into what I could do and the potential of getting into a new demographic, because one of our goals here at Marriott Meeting was to open up our demographic to be more inclusive of, for example, younger people. Adult eds are known to have a lot of customers and a lot of clients and a lot of residents that are older. But we wanted to attract more younger people. So how do we do that? Well, I know that now we are sort of on their minds already as well too, because we are a provider of adult education. I mean, of driver's education. Our name is out in the high school whenever they send out an announcement through the high school um, speaker system, just talking about how Marriott Meeting Adult Ed is having these driver's ed classes. So already on kids' minds, on younger people's minds, on teenagers, tweens, whatever, it's already being implanted on them, right? The Marriott Meeting does adult education services, but they also do things that are more relevant to young people. So why not break that into other avenues? So I was thinking already that's a great way to kind of go into the market for younger people, is using our identifier as an adult ed provider. Um, we're also seen as an English language servicer for multilingual populations. We're also seen as a programming that caters to middle-aged adults to seniors. We also have a demographic dominance in Topsom, Brunswick, and Bath as well too. And so I highlighted all of these in blue because these are sort of um, these are very, they're very direct, right? Brand identifiers. There's no question about it. They're not controversial. They're not devised in some sort of way. No, these are just, it is what it is. This is what we offer. And this is what our community sees that we offer, you know? And then in the red though, is what I'd like to put as sort of the negative identifiers, where it's not really negative, but it's more so like there's a potential that the public out there sees us in this light that we may not necessarily like. And for us, we managed to discover that one of our brand identifiers, at least within the last like 4 to 5 years, is that we represent change as well too. We've our staff has changed over a couple of times in the past few years. We have new protocols and procedures. COVID. There was a pre-COVID era, there was a COVID era, and now there's a post-COVID era. So, I mean, just all those issues put together for our community out there, our brand now attaches this identifier of change. Whether that's good or bad, it could be one of two ways. It could be bad, as in, negative, as in your program is just not stable enough and secure enough in our community, so I'm not going to bother to go into it, right? But it could also represent, well, the need to adapt to new demographics, the need to be inclusive of more geographical locations. That so change could go one of two ways as well too. But knowing that that is a brand identifier out in the community allows you to then address it, without leaving it to chance. And you never want to leave anything to chance, especially but yeah, so it's just, and it could be other things as well too. One of these blue topics as well, the workforce development, for example, CNA, that I could have put that in red if it was something that I saw in the community was either negative, or there was something about it that wasn't working for the community. There was sort of like a mismatch, either in communication or an actual experience. And again, you identify it as a brand identifier, but then also, is it something that's positive in people's minds, or something that could be controversial in people's minds as well too? Because if it is, then you want to be able to address it, and this is the way you do it. Okay, I go into branding strategy. This can be very, very long. It's usually multiple pages because it's an analysis of your long-term plan, but it's also an analysis of your sustainability of your brand. But here, for our purposes, we just kind of broke it down. We want to expand our brand recognition beyond our current brand identifiers. That is inclusive of varied demographic and geographic considerations. A fancy way of saying we want more people in our doors, basically. And we want not only more people in our doors, but we want different kinds of people in our doors. Our program is identified as a program that caters to middle-aged to seniors, to middle-aged adults to seniors, but we want to be more inclusive. So how do we do that? We want to bring younger people into our enrichment program, for example. How do we do that? Well, you can't do it unless you actually write it down first as a long-term goal. And then sustainability of brand is, just how are you going to sustain these brand identifiers, especially the ones in blue? Um, these are the ways that people are seeing you, and they're positive ways of seeing you. So you want to be able to sustain that positivity, or that kind of goodwill that you've achieved in offering these services as well too. So for us, it's maintaining these brand identifiers in particular, but then including design while adapting to shifting cultural and geopolitical trends in our communities. And that's just very important. It's all about adapting, right? Um, do a chime check. Okay. I'll be done really, really soon because we're almost at the hour mark. And then marketing strategy is for us, it's we were looking at who our students were currently. So our students, are older adults, retirees, 60 plus with disposable income. That's on the enrichment side. For academics, we have a lot of English language learners or multilingual language learners. We also have most of our young to midlife adults who come from the academic and workforce section. So looking at this and being able to kind of put this on paper and just seeing it from a bigger picture, I know now we do get a younger demographic into our program, but they're coming through academics. And so we want to have more younger adults come in for enrichment. So how do we do that? Maybe we get them through academics. That's their first contact with us. Then maybe that would be a good contact for us to get them interested in some of our enrichment programs as well too. That's one possibility. I wouldn't have been able to do that though, or known to do that if I hadn't actually spelled it out for myself and in my organization here by saying this is what it is. We also have a lot of midlife to older women, 40 plus. Um, but those women are specifically here for enrichment. And knowing that helps us create goals, maintain goals, and achieve certain goals too. What do we offer right now? High school completion, free college transitions, free programs for ELL or MLL, low cost and affordable workforce development. So it's a list of what services you offer, but also how you offer them. Free, affordable, not free kinds of things, low cost, whatnot. Tells you a lot of information about your program as well too. Where do we function and what channels do we use to promote? This is really important as well too, because it tells you if you want to expand, it tells you where to expand to. Right now we're headquartered in Topsom and we're sandwiched between the high school and middle school. We have an established presence in Topsom, Brunswick, Bowdoin, and Bath, but we want to grow. We want a bigger presence in Harpswell, for example, and that comes later in my plan. And I know to do that though because of this, because we actually laid it out. Where are we strongest, and where do we want to go? We can't answer those questions unless you know where you're at. And then the fourth part here is the execution of branding, and this is a much longer part to it, but it's just talking about our long-term goals, maintaining our brand identifiers, um, reaching out to the community, considering our aging population as well too. What does that mean for our program? I mean, this is a consideration for the entire state of Maine, but how does online programming figure into this? Consider programs for people with mobility issues as well too. That's online as well too, possibility. Consider more outdoor programming, especially in the age of COVID and beyond. We're in a post-COVID era, but there's always the possibility that something else might happen. So, maybe leaning into outdoor programming could be something that we could have used a lot of during COVID. You want to consider the relevancy of programs to different communities as well too. We're trying to break into Harpswell, so we had to go into Harpswell and figure out what they need, what they want, and what we could do. I did that research and I found out a lot of things about Harpswell. Harpswell, for example, is very active during the summer. There's a lot of people that come from different states. So you have a lot of newcomers in a sense to the community as well too. That's important to know. Harpswell is also very, very particular, and residents of Harpswell are very particular about the types of things they like to do. During the summer, they don't like to stay inside. We could run as many indoor art classes as we want in Harpswell, and no one's going to register for them because that type of community is just not built for that. They much rather prefer outdoor programs or workshops or whatnot, and that's what we did, and they were successful. We actually partnered with the Land Trust in Harpswell to offer hikes and to offer journaling classes about nature and sketching classes out in plein air sketching classes out in nature as well too, and they all were very successful. But had we not done this, had we not taken the time to consider our population in Harpswell and the demographic and the geography of Harpswell, we probably would have had as successful program as we did in outreach as we did there. So it's just really, really to break this stuff out. What are our shorter term goals? It could be something as easy as we want to do more outdoor movie nights for community building efforts, more lecture series, more maybe a Scrabble tournament. If we know we have a lot of Scrabble players in the area, be out in the community more, volunteer at soup kitchens, handing out free turkeys during Thanksgiving, participating in fundraising. Like all of these things are things that we're Short-term goals because I knew that there were goals that were achievable in those short term. So it's not you don't want to think about your goals just as just being achievable in general. You want to know when they're achievable. Are they going to be achievable shortly or in the long term? There's nothing wrong with either one, but you need to know what's what in order for you to be able to achieve them. Outdoor movie night is something that can be achieved tomorrow. You need more time to organize it, of course, but it's a short-term goal. Something else may not be, but it's important that you know what's what. We wanted to enact a social media plan. We want to streamline our enrichment course proposal process, redesign some of the website assets, create a stock library of original content. We just have a lot of things that are all in the short term. Um, and then we also have demographic goals. We want to go out to this community. We want to go out, want to talk to these people over here, maybe possibly create a pipeline for this field or this type of workforce programming. We want more tween, teen, and young adult programming. So, we're trying out different things. We're also doing our research and seeing what other types of programs are out there for kids. And so we've come up with a few different things. And some of them have worked better than others, but you just don't know. First, you don't know if you don't do the research and the marketing plan, but then you don't know if you don't actually run it either, because that's all part of measuring your marketing as well too. Um, and then we have geographic goals, right? We have design considerations and promotional ideas and then a social media plan. We got very specific here about all that. But then the last thing I wanted to show everyone was this appendix that we created with just numbers, really. And this is a very quick way to start measuring what you've got. We wanted to set up our current academic enrollment numbers and see what that looked like, and then create projections based on your current numbers. So we have, let's say 100 kids that came into our program last year through these different types of services. We want to increase that by 200. So we're going to put the projection as 200 and keep the current as 100, right? And that just gives you a goal to look forward to, but it also is it's also measurable analytics and data that you can rely on in order to make these projections and to make your marketing plan work for you, in general. But and we did that for enrichment as well too. We did it for other programs like some workforce stuff, driver's ed, and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's just basically doing an analysis of who you are, what you're doing, what services you're providing, how you're providing them, who's coming to your doors. And then once you understand yourself, being able to then create long-term goals and short-term goals for that based on the goals that you want and that you have, and the best way to do that is this marketing plan. It might sound like a vanity project for some people who don't have the time to do this, but I have to say that having a plan like this is not just important for your marketing purposes, it's important for your overall health as an organization, honestly. Like, how do you know that your HiSET program is going well if you don't talk to your students, if you don't get that feedback? That's marketing, by the way. Like, you may not believe it, you may not agree with me, but facts are facts. It is marketing. You are marketing every day. Every day you go into work, every day you talk to students, every day you talk to teachers, every day, everything that happens within your offices, even virtually, is marketing. 110%, you know? And being able to understand that and being able to give it some thought and some research will only help your organization. Just it will. So this is my spiel on the marketing plan, but I do have one last slide for you all. It's just a simple slide. Oh, I want to talk about that too, but sure if we have time. But yeah, so I just want to thank everyone for your time. Please feel free to reach out to me directly if you have questions. My name's Jose again. And if you are a professional contact of mine, you can reach me at my think75.org account. If you are an academic contact of mine, then you can reach me at my USM email at maine.edu. But otherwise, and really quickly, this was just a slide on one of the most successful nonprofit marketing campaigns in the last 5 years is this charity called Charity Water. And the campaign itself is called Stream for Clean 2022 campaign. Let me see if I can click on it. It'll start. Of course, not start here. The video is very quick. It's 30 seconds long, but it's pretty impactful and it's effective because what you would see, and I'm going to share this PowerPoint with everyone as well too, on Schoology, by the way. So all this information will be put up. I'll create a folder in Schoology for everyone, which will include this PowerPoint. It'll include a copy of a Merry Meetings marketing plan. It'll include all the tips that we went over. It'll include some recommendations on how to craft a story really well. Like, so it includes a lot of information there. But the video was really, really impactful and interesting because within 5 seconds of the video, they went straight to their marketing goal, right? And I think that was kind of that's what makes it so memorable. They went directly into this is what we want to do. We want to provide clean water for 10,000 people in this village in Zimbabwe. It's very simple, very straightforward. It's complicated to get there, of course, but the marketing itself was simplified, and that's really important, right? It's simplified because they know their audience, because they know who they are and what they want to do and what they want to achieve, and their goal was researched and was specific and was achievable and attainable, right? They don't say we want to provide clean water for the entire country of Zimbabwe. They're saying we want to provide 10,000 people in this village in Zimbabwe with clean water. And doing so, it's a recipe for success. It really is, to be that intentional about your marketing. But yeah, so otherwise, that's it. We are an hour and 5 minutes in. So this is well past the lunch and learn time. So I apologize for that. But again, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to speak with you about it. Thank you. Bye.